I like this. At least the first sentence here. Let me see. It says offense seems to be struggling league wide. Teams like the Steelers can always be in striking distance. What's your thoughts on the league struggles? Shortened preseason, temporary, or trending back to defense?
To me personally, I think the shortened preseason to an extent have an effect. I also feel like defenses have caught up to an extent of just being less about the heavy risk reward. You got to end it or win it right now. And what I mean by that is teams used to be super aggressive, right? Play cover one, we're going to blitz you, we're going to heat you up. But we've seen with the Mahomes, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows and company, that's not the way to beat them. The way to beat them is to play a too high shell and make them have to snap the ball 15 times every single drive. We see that not a lot of teams consistently are willing to do that. They're not patient enough to do that. It also takes the air out the game. It's going to make it a slow, every possession counts. Think about the past couple Chiefs games we've been watching, right? Past couple years. They've been a lot more of that slow pace, teams playing the too high shell and make them have to just execute. And then what? End of a half, end of a quarter, or end of a game, that's when Mahomes is like, you know what, bump it. I'm going to just take over. This has happened long enough. That's why, we've seen a lot of these offenses struggle. But then the other part is I think offensive line play across the league is down right now. Like when the O-line can't protect versus the way these pass rushers have continued to keep coming out, that's another big reason why some of these offenses struggle. When you don't have time to sit back and throw it, or when you're getting hit and sacked so many times, it's like, for context, right? Lamar Jackson, when they played us last week or a week ago, Alex Highsmith had 11 pressures on that kid, bro. And that's versus Ronnie Stanley, who is viewed as a top 5 left tackle in this league. So for context, it's like, if that's a top 5 guy, now granted, we know he was leaking some oil, but it's like, if that's a top 5 tackle giving up 11 pressures in one singular game, should have had 2 sacks, one guy called back. It's like, imagine the rest of these dudes. We talk about our Dan Moore. I'm like, Dan Moore, if y'all look around the league, Dan Moore is not what y'all think he is. Dan Moore is actually a good player, man. Broderick, it's like, yo, we're trying to get that developed, right? But I think that's also a big reason why some of the quarterbacks struggle. We even see that here with Kenny. He struggles at times because of the pressure. And there are multiple elements at factor as well, but that is one of the things that we've seen. Yeah, it affects him negatively.
Yeah, that's what I thought yesterday. It went back to a lot of our conversations from last week with the offense, and just seeing how some of these teams were winning, and it was ugly.
Yeah,
and it was ugly. So, yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, no one's sticking out right now because you look at the Chiefs on that Thursday night game against the Broncos. What they put up, 19 points. They were struggling. Bengals got off to a hot start, but then didn't they only score, what was it, 17 total points?
Name a team that's dropping 30 every week, 400 plus total offense every week consistently. That's the misconception. But here in Pittsburgh, we get so enamored with the fact that we haven't had 400 yards of total offense and 30 points in X amount of games that we will blind ourselves to the success that we have been consistently having. Whereas you look at some of them other teams, it's like, yo, they might score, but they're not as consistent as we are. Now, granted, we know the same 4 teams that we going to bring up. And it's like, yeah, if that's the 4 that we chasing, I get it. But we can't let that 4 make us think that we not doing.
Because those offenses will struggle.
Correct.
Particularly against good defenses. Now, our defense hasn't been as good as what we thought. That's a problem right there.
To an extent, they haven't. But at the same time, we could also say that they have. Because they've gotten us out of multiple stadiums.
Just not consistent throughout this season at least.
Right.
But my thing, again, with the offense, I'm not looking for the 30 points. I don't care about the yards. I just want to move the ball. And
the competency, man.
Yeah, I just literally want to move the ball.
Gotta look competent, man.
Play good complementary football because even though the Giants, what was the final score yesterday's game?
14-9. Kind of like 13-9.
If it wasn't for their, stupid call at the goal line or whatnot, they would have had maybe 12 points. They could have had 14. Yeah. I know it came down to the end, too.
It technically wasn't a stupid call. It was a check call.
That was
we
terrible.
all want checks, right? We all want checks. You get you a check, and shout out to my dog Tyrod. That's a vet. Dude that's been to a Pro Bowl, has actually ended the drought for Buffalo,
timeouts,
right?
That's terrible.
No, but let's talk about it, all right? Because this is part of my issue when everybody wants to throw all this on Kenny Pickett. Let him be able to audible. Let him be able to check. You got the Tyrod situation where that's a 10-year vet that's been here, has success, started and everything, And even him in a moment like that, where that's still the correct check based on the box count and the look. But situationally, it's not the right check. Those are all things you got to learn on the fly. And that was after he did what? Scrambled, got out of bounds, and that was still a questionable call. And this is what they
At least he got out of bounds. Yeah, what happened on that? Did he just not realize there was 10 seconds left?
I think he just blew his mind. I think he just had a bonehead where he's like, yo, this the look.
He didn't even try to hurry him back up
Right.
to the line of scrimmage. But when
we're talking about playing in these games, it's like, bro, it's so much that has to be done right when you're throwing all that on these dudes. So when I look at Kenny after 17 games, I'm like, yo, I know we want him to have all that ability and to execute at a high level and this and that, but I'm like, it's still multiple people to varying degrees. Geno Smith, another dude, right? Comeback player of the year, $100 million quarterback, has played really well at times. You saw him struggle yesterday. You saw him make some bonehead decisions. You're like, dang, Geno, what you doing?
In the red zone. Bengals got blessed.
But that's part of the thing when we're talking about Kenny's development. It's like, man, Kenny can get to what we want him to get to, but let's not lose sight of two other. One's a second rounder. One's, I think Tyrod was mid-tier round. But two dudes that have started multiple times in this league have had success taking two teams to the postseason. And even them, they struggle at times. So once again, with Kenny, understand it's going to be better out the bot, but there's still going to be times where he's going to have some mistakes, some bonehead plays. And those were two prime examples, and I want to use them versus the traditional names of Joe Burrow.
Well, they're struggling
Allen,
too.
Tannehill, Cousins, because that still is a little bit far away right now. Whereas Geno, Tyrod, to me, I'm like, yo, let's get to that first. Cross that, and then we can worry about the next group. But if we just shooting for that one right now, man, it's going to look real crazy at times. But that's kind of, I'm like, yo, them dudes are struggling with the same concepts right now that we're trying to get Kenny to get more comfortable with.
Well, here's what I was going to say. Like, even with the Giants yesterday having Tyrod Taylor and only put up 9 points, again, could have been in the teens depending on how those goal line situations went.
Both
end of half and then,
right?
End of the fourth quarter. But them, even the Jets, like they didn't put up many points, but their defense balled out.
Yeah.
What I can at least say about those offenses is they moved the ball.
They did.
Right.
They definitely did.
They actually looked good, like
that's
competent.
What we want more
they didn't have
of.
the 30 points, but they looked good. Moved the ball. I can't say good to the fullest extent, but they just moved the ball. They look like an NFL offense, right? They look like they belong. Yeah. Whereas 4 out of the 5 games this year, it hasn't even looked like that for us for the majority of these games.
Yeah. But which would you rather have?
What do you mean?
The two scenarios you just broke down. Which would you rather have?
Between what?
What we've currently done and what our results are versus what you've currently seen from those other teams and what their results are. Which would you rather have?
Well, Jets did win. I just want to win. At the end of the day, I want to win, but I need to know that we could start moving the ball on offense because that will be conducive for us winning going forward. Well, us consistently not getting over the 50-yard line isn't that helpful.
Technically, it will be more conducive to your confidence in the team winning more because we've already shown that they are winning. We've talked about that. It's just not pretty winning, but they are winning. When we talk about is it sustainable, technically they've proven
I think
at least
we got some luck in our way. And
luck or not, we've seen everybody gets lucky.
Self-sabotage by
everybody
our
gets
opponents.
lucky at some point, right? Referee, drop
again,
pass,
and I will take that
league,
for these first 5 weeks. The offense just has to get better though, going forward. Just
I'm with you
out.
on that, bro. I'm with you.